banned away by Giants. We did see an Elise game out of Maxlor as well, but it wasn't his greatest performance.
No, definitely not. And now for Giants, is Maxlor the one they want to pinch more, or do they maybe want to look towards top laners? Syndra's the answer for ROCCAT, make that Rise more comfortable.
I think the problem is there's a lot of top laners still available that are at least within the tank pool. Obviously, this Nautilus can flex towards the top lane for Flaxish as well. Maokai is still available, so ROCCAT will be pinching the mid lane pool continually. So for Giants, they want to ban away the Maokai and allow, ROCCAT to maybe go jungle as the first pick, so they counter pick that top lane, or do they take away Rek'Sai here and put Maxlor on something completely less comfortable for him?
Yeah, I don't know what Giants are going to do, but Knight has shown a proficiency and a preference for that Corki mid. A lot of games. And with both Syndra and Cassio off the pool, that's kind of the safe one. It's not going to be the Rek'Sai ban, it's going to be the Elise instead. So Maxlor could get his hands still on a fairly standard tanky jungler.
Which is interesting because Maxlor's Elise game wasn't particularly great. He's played a lot of Lee Sin as another pick. 2 of his games have been on that and was a little bit more active in the early game. Thinking back to how Maxlor tried to be aggressive early game against Trick in their series against G2. We'll see if he ends up going with that as a last pick in this draft.
All right, so Shen is the first pick in phase 2. Over the Maokai, over the Poppy. Maokai is going to be potentially locked in by Giants. Wouldn't be too surprised. Standardized matchup and just have that scaling and teamfight power on your side.
Yeah, and Flaxish looked pretty good on the Maokai the other day as well. Played it in the series against Fnatic, up against Soaz Elawi, and looked fairly strong, TPing into fights in the game that they won, so was pretty good. So we're looking for mid lane right now. You mentioned the Corki has already come out. It can match a lot of the damage that Rise outputs and actually has damage a little bit earlier into the game as well. So I think it'd be a solid pick for Knight if they want that straight up damage, but that's not where they're going. They want to go to other lanes to carry, Trevor. They want to cross map. All
right, cross map. Giants showed both of the respective series pretty good openings to the series before losing 2-1. And this Talia could help out both that Ashe, Nautilus lane, or the Maokai. Especially if Memento starts roaming with the Kha'Zix. And it is time for Nightmares. Maxlor locks in Nocturne.
Yeah, Maxlor going to be one of the handful of players to bring it out. Of course, we've seen Jankos bring it out in their second game of the beginning of the split against Origin. Had a very successful game on it, but does take a little time to get rolling. Certainly waiting for that level 6 point. We've seen enemy Kha'Zix struggle if you can put him behind earlier than that. I'm not sure Nocturne's really going to be able to. Very much like Rek'Sai and a bunch of other junglers. You want to kind of farm for a while. You want to get to level 6, impact the lanes, but look at the synergy. The entire top half of the map can appear on you in an instant. Nocturne, Rise, Shen, all can, join with their global presence.
And that's exactly what ROCCAT want to do. The moment Knight decides to change lanes, you have, in case of emergency, push 3 buttons. Get Nocturne in there, get Shen in there. And hell, Betsy could even run up there with a Realm Warp as well. Lozok going to cross the stage and shake hands with Grabs. A lot on the line. Both teams 0 and 2. And obviously want to avoid that number 5 spot. It is the promotion tournament spot if you remain in 5th. And I think things can get explosive quickly because of how global and the global impact both of these teams can have.
Yeah, fair amount of global impact. I am a little worried for Giants with this Talia. Just if Knight doesn't get, really far ahead early in Snowball, HQ, it's going to be a little difficult. Memento's going to need to bring the damage as well, so there's certainly options for Giants, but they do need to start things out high.
They absolutely do, Stress. It's Giants versus ROCCAT. Game 1, the last of our Sunday series. And Giants on the blue side. They have side selection for games 1 and 3, and they elected blue side for this game. And have got themselves a pretty strong front line, pretty good damage. The only cost is making sure they can get everybody enabled, right? Ashe a little bit slow, Talia, good, in the early and mid game, kind of falls off in comparison to the Rise.
Yeah, and you have to assume that that Rise is going to be one of those sticking points for ROCCAT the later this game goes. I mean, very rarely does a Rise get so heavily shut out of a game that that impact isn't felt. And when you start pairing it with Shen for a shield, Karma for a shield, and extra damage coming from Hyun and Maxlor, it might be enough to combo together. to kind of fight back. But speaking of Maxlow, we'll be seeing, as he's facing up against his former team, whether he'll be giving them nightmares, or whether it'll be something he'll be looking back on for the second time these two meet, maybe wanting something a little more consistent out of the jungle. There were a lot of junglers available in this game still. Yeah. I mean, the Rengar, the Kha'Zix were gone, Elise was banned, but Rek'Sai was up, Lee Sin was up. We'll see whether the Nocturne pays off. I
mean, I feel like if ROCCAT are committing to that like theme or the play style of Global Impact, Nocturne is a very natural fit. And we just need to see how well Maxlow can impact the game. He's had a very slow start to 2017, and I know personally I had higher expectations for him individually. And the analyst desk were talking about how, as individuals, Giants players have actually kind of shown up. You know, they've had pretty good moments, highs and lows, but they've shone just a little brighter than ROCCAT have in the opening 2 weeks of gameplay.
So from the initial assessment of the lanes, you could see Hikyu and Hustling coming to lane later. Faxi came to lane later as well. Both teams should be aware that the junglers started on the opposite sides of the map. Both started on their red buff. So we'll see how that affects the early pathing. Of course, both now going fairly quickly over towards that blue buff as well. Fairly standard pathing after that red start. We'll see where they end up.
Yeah, and see who's going to have priority in the lanes. As it stands, Hyanan and Wadid very obviously pushing in Hikyu and Hustlin. That Varus Karma is going to be obnoxious into a Nautilus support.
And we spoke a little bit earlier about how both junglers want to farm up to 6 to some extent. Also, top lane isn't particularly a strong option to gank. Maokai, Shen, very early on. Yes, both junglers bring damage, but in prolonged exchanges, it's not exactly easy. Hawkshot, though, used nicely by Hikyu off that level 2, just to make sure that they could track Maxlow over the Rift Scuttler.
Yeah, getting a lot of ROCCAT pings on the minimap around this Infernal Drake. Wadid's already left lane. Don't know if they're going to start this one early or not, but making it very clear they're aware of it.
It's less about the Infernal Drake. This is about tracking Memento, because you can see that Hyanan and Wadid are pushing the bot lane. As long as there is the Rift Scuttler vision, and at least wards in the jungle or in Tribush on Giant's side, theoretically ROCCAT can't get ganked. It's only a lane gank. That's very difficult this early on Kha'Zix without your ultimate. So ROCCAT heavily prioritizing that vision in the lower side river.
Yeah, pretty high up as well. So if Memento decides to come down through that Tribush, will not likely get spotted out too quickly. And I want to keep my eyes on this Hyanan Wadid duo lane. They locked in the Varus Karma very early on. And I actually spoke to Fly a little bit earlier today and talked to, ROCCAT team manager and ROCCAT about how they picked Wadid. Where did he come from? And they told me a little story about how Wadid was a Challenger Series player over in Korea. Actually made it to playoffs, lost in the 3rd, 4th matchup. But he was a duo queue partner for Imp. And the ROCCAT scouts basically said, look, we're interested, while they were looking for a support, brought him over to EU for a trial. And Hyanan just said, that's it, this is the support, this is the guy I want to play with. So ROCCAT, looked to contract him, and that's why a challenger level player from Korea got brought over. It's synergy, he spoke good English, and he interacted well with Hyanan.
And we've certainly heard that before from Hyanan about wanting to only play with one support for a prolonged amount of time. Up until the time where he stepped back away from the game at the end of Spring Split last year, he was solidly a duo with Kasing for a very long time, and they were very vocal about wanting to play with each other. So we'll see now how Wadid and Hyanan can fare together. They have had a little bit of a slow start when you look at things overall. I still feel like Hyanan hasn't got back to where he was when he left back in the end of spring. But he's certainly a player that, with the right champion picks and the right playstyle for AD carry, which I think typically was a lot of Sivir, that style when we were playing that in the bot lane, that's where he found success. I'm not so sure about the Ashe, the Varus. We've seen a couple of good games, but I want to see more from Hyanan.
Yeah, we'll keep our eyes on him. Hyanan's going to get caught out. Decent flash, gets bopped by Hustlin, but summon a spell blown. Memento takes a lot of damage, and now it's just a matter of rinse and repeat. Yeah. Find another opportunity and look to punish Hyanan.
Good damage traded back. They did, however, get the flash, as you mentioned. Maxlow is roaming down as well, but there's a ward in Tribush from Giants, so we'll stop any kind of attempt at the bot lane. Maxwell's not even going to be that effective post 6 unless he gets very close to the lane. It's one of the problems with Nocturne rank 1 ult. It actually really is a short radius. Same as Rise almost when it used to be the change to his ult.
Yeah, very, very short. You want to get to level 11 really if you can make those huge impacts. But luckily, the moment Maxwell decides to jump in, he can bring Foxy as well. Deliver the Stand United Shen. That is one hell of a backline delivery system for ROCCAT. Getting closer to those ultimates. Stand United now up for Foxy. He's been trading with Flaxish. No real surprises in that tank v tank. Even CS in the mid lane, even CS in the bot lane. So now we start seeing as the junglers get their ultimates, who can make those first ganks stick and which lane they're going to start snowballing.
Yep, and with Hyanan and Widid pushing the bot lane out, recalling out, we're having our first buys of the game, and Hyanan is opting for that Blade of the Ruined King style on Varus. Neither the full lethality nor the tier build.
The tier build, yeah, which we're seeing so much of this week.
Yeah, seen a lot of it. Tabs didn't do it in the previous game. Hyanan opting for Blade of the Ruined King.
I mean, very tanky members on the side of Giants. That Nautilus and Maokai. When they start building up that armor, the lethality build just becomes a little less valuable.
Less effective. You're also less reliant on poke as well against this style, which is why you're not opting that tier style where you need that massive amount of mana. Also, the Blade of the Ruined King gives you a little bit extra chance to kite out. It's not that significant, but it does help at that point. So Hyanan should have a bunch of shields on him as well if the shields end up going that way, the Karma, the Shen. We spoke about that a little bit, pairing with Maxlow and Betsy earlier. So this is a bit of a slower start to the game than we had than the last one. Wisdom had died 4 times in game 2 of our last series by this point, so, or 3 times.
Yeah.
I'll be fair to it.
It was 3 times by 8 minutes. I mean, I think you're arguing semantics, right? Like, it's bad versus very bad. But for ROCCAT, I mean, this isn't terrible. You know, Hyanan and Wadid, they did push very aggressively. Unfortunately, losing that flash on Hyanan has meant they've now actually given up a lot of control in that lane. And really, I feel like they could have done better with the double range, with the wave clear. And now level 6 on Hikyu, once Hustling gets access to that dredge line, or the depth charge rather, the engage potential is terrifying.
Look at Maxlow. Hang on, look at where Maxlow is positioning himself in the back of the lane, right in paranoia radius. He is, however, oh, that ward just died and did not get pinged. He'll get spotted out on the control ward as I believe he passes. Ping did not go on him, so maybe he just snuck around the edge of vision. But that was a pivotal moment where if Knight hadn't backed himself away as that ward was dying, potentially could have been an engage out of Betsy. This is the moment that has been building for the last 8 minutes.
Yeah, Betsy, Ghost Flash, right? No cleanse available to him. Rune Prison comes down, and Betsy's going to sidestep the Unraveled Earth. Paranoia and Stand United are available.
Oh,
Stand United gets channeled. Hustling's the target. Shroud of Darkness comes down to block a spell shield, but it's not going to stop for Foxy. Teleport coming down. While all that's going on, somehow Betsy died. Flaxish is teleported in. Knight surfs on the Weaver's wall.
It's gone horribly wrong.
This is horrible for ROCCAT. 3 kills so far. They're diving for 4. They're looking for a 10-minute ace.
The complete misfire out of ROCCAT. Everything that could have possibly gone wrong just went wrong for them. They tried to get everything layered together. Betsy got caught on his way down. Not only is it the ace, that's first tower blood going down as well. 5 for 0 plus the tower is a 4,000 gold lead at 10 minutes and an Infernal Drake.
We absolutely need to unpack. How did everything just go so wrong?
Memento turns on Betsy. He's isolated through the paranoia. They just spotted him out. Memento solo killed him. Didn't get a chance to react. Flaxish, beautiful teleport positioning after the paranoia had gone down. And they went on Hustling to begin this fight off. They went on a tank that has shields and crowd control. And early on in the game, Shen and Nocturne alone are not enough to chunk through a Nautilus, and everything else just falls.
Stress, I have one thing to say to that. Press Shift, Enter, and type GG, go next.
Yeah, this game is pretty much done. I'm sorry. This lead.
3,500 gold, a tower, a dragon. 4 assists on Flaxish as well as Hustling. And Giants are just in a phenomenal position.
And as much of it is a misfire by ROCCAT, that is great counter-engage out of Giants. Like, to turn that fight back around, realizing that everything was on Hassan. You can see, even early game, this damage is it's pretty insane. Like, Memento, nearly 2,000 damage out.
And we talked about Kha'Zix. Kha'Zix was the first pick for Giants. Obviously, because of Rengar, Camille, LeBlanc, being on blue side allows you to unlock that. Not only do Giants get a favorable, optimistic, not only do Giants get a favorable, jungler, Memento, you saw the damage dealt. At this early in the game, he just wrecked ROCCAT.
Oh, that was a really nice counter-engage out of Giants.
Yeah.
So, TP in, holds him in place. Everyone's trying to fight Maokai. He's got his ult running. Under the tower they go. They didn't even have to use anything to start the fight because ROCCAT just was spreading themselves way too thin. And honestly, Giants, from this, you can see what they've done. Swap it up to the top lane, try and push in now. Flaxish is pretty strong himself, so is able to just sit out in the lane. Memento wants Hyanan.
Oh, I don't think Hyanan knows. Oh, there was a little too eager there. Memento committed the ulti. Oh, he walked over the ward. I need to actually double check if he was spotted. Doesn't really matter. Unfortunately for Giants, they can't get themselves another kill. Essence Reaver into the Cutlass. Great combo from Knight.
Forces the Shen ult. And now Faxi's out of lane, which means, on that bot lane, Flaxish is about to shove this wave into the tower, and Faxi just has to walk back.
Really well played so far. Now we get to see how good are Giants with the lead, right? They're coming up against ROCCAT, who both teams have had struggles, but when Giants have picked up wins earlier in the split, it was early in a series, and it was often as well because of good early game decision making. Yeah,
and good early game decision making out of Giants on this one. We'll see where they end up going. They're a little bit stalled out, mainly because objectives aren't going to come quite so easily as the last fight happened as well. But certainly if Giants play this one out at a decent pace of pushing their lead, trying to just take an objective every couple of minutes, they should be able to just snowball this game through. But ROCCAT, we saw them stall the other day against Misfits. If they can do the same, it would be a monumental effort.
Oh, yes. All right, wave clear aplenty, though. Duskbringer from Nocturne, good AoE from Ryze, and obviously the piercing arrow from Hyanan. So at least early on, that'll be very helpful. And for Giants, they've got outer turrets in the middle and top lane to focus down. Just gingerly tapping away at the top lane tower and backing away. So Essence Reaver, a couple long swords for Hikyu. And it just slowed down a little bit. Giants happy with their counter-engage, happy with the punish, and don't want to overextend because, of course, Nocturne once again has access to Paranoia.
So Betsy right now just is about to head back, or just finished backing, so gets his Rod of Ages. Again, Betsy needs a lot more time in this game. We're talking 25 minutes into the game will really be his time. Oh.
That was really sad. Oh. The observers are evil, toying with the heart. Memento, however, doesn't need 25 minutes stress. No. Got that serrated Dirk, got the Warrior Enchant, and is really just looking for another juicy target to hit because, well, to be honest, there's a lot of squishy targets on ROCCAT. Nocturne only got Merc Treads right now, likely to build damage first before going tank later. So that plays into Giants' hands.
It does. It does play into their hands for now, and we'll see as we progress. As you said, Giants slowed down a little bit, of course. They're having difficulty getting into the lane. Hikyu, his arrow is up. You can see ROCCAT giving a fair amount of respect as well to the amount of engage that Giants have.
And I like seeing that. ROCCAT don't overstay. Don't commit to defending a tower that may result in a tower dive. Teleport is up for Flaxish, so maybe, conceding sometimes is something you have to do. And Maxlaw sniffing around the mid lane.
Yeah, and a lot of why they conceded was Maxlaw was on the opposite side of the rift. Here he goes onto Memento. They're trying a second time.
All right, round warps coming in from Betsy as well. Faxi just gonna fall short with the taunt. Memento flashes over the wall. Nobody to follow. There's no one killed yet. Sidestep from the chain of corruption, and Giants don't get locked down. Counter engage, gonna fall short. Dredgeline finds nobody. Here comes Flaxish. Knight on the sidelines. ROCCAT are running for their lives. Flaxish is looking looking for a target. A flash away from everyone on ROCCAT. Dustbringer buys some time. How did no one die?
No one died because this time ROCCAT were retreating for almost the entire fight. As soon as Giants appeared, ROCCAT were bailing. They did not want the same thing to happen a second time. That would have been sure end of the game. I mean, ROCCAT just deciding to pull back from that fight. Giants regroup. Knight was on his way as soon as Betsy started leaving lane, and Flaxish again with a decent TP positioning in that fight.
I'm going back to the Misfits series where Giants were playing from a deficit. Misfits had big lead and they kind of meandered and dawdled in the mid game, and Giants just won back-to-back team fights over and over. We've hit 16 minutes. And this game's had 2 huge team fights, in the laning phase and now sort of roaming phase. It's just phenomenal for Giants. They're going to take another dragon. They're completely going to zone ROCCAT away with this lead they've accrued.
I mean, 2 Infernals means whoever Memento meets in the jungle, if they're 1 versus 1, Memento is just going to destroy them. Those evolved claws that taste their fear.
Yes.
It's going to be a lot of fear, and Maxwell is not the one instilling it in people, unfortunately.
I do like the fact that ROCCAT attempted to go for that play up top. Now, unfortunately, they couldn't get the damage to stick. There was a lot of missed skill shots on both sides. But the attempt was to get a quick kill, slow down the pressure. Now, Giants' counter-engage has just been better than ROCCAT's actual engage.
Right, and I would even say the first play, the theory behind it of, hey, let's group, let's get in on the bot lane, let's bot lane party 5 members. The problem is the execution on the first play means that the second time they try it again, they're already fairly far behind.
Yeah.
So they didn't get the instant kill and had to just pull back away from the rest of the fight. So the execution just really undoing the good theory.
Yeah, good theory, and ROCCAT 5,000 gold down as Maxwell's pushed away from the Brambleback. Can't even stay inside his own jungle. Giants grouping themselves up as 5. Correction, 4, because Knight is down in the bottom lane. There's a 4-1 split. Unraveled Earth. The Weaver's Wall, sorry. Knight's ulti is available, so he can jump up and try cut people off. I'm just tracking him on the minimap to see when he decides to engage, and it's just pressuring too many lanes for ROCCAT to handle.
Yeah, and the thing is, Knight left bot lane at the first point as well, so before Betsy did. Obviously, a little bit faster with that passive, allows him to kind of surf the walls and head up towards top side, but Giants fairly focused on this top side tower. They already took out the mid-outer, so they want to look elsewhere for their presence.
A little bit more story time for you, Stress. ROCCAT, in terms of like building their team, Betsy and Hyanan were the core, 2 guys that where it started. Then they looked towards Maxwell, got Maxwell on board. Maxwell actually helped find Foxy, and we touched on how Wadid was found. And there's a little bit of trading here. And one of the things the team was telling me was that ROCCAT's comp, their team was built around progression and development. They knew they weren't going to be super strong out the gates, but there was potential, there was a good, healthy environment. Everybody was good at communicating, and we need to track how much better they get from week to week, you know, because more scrims, more practice, more game time on stage. The problem is it can't take too long. You know, there's only 10 weeks in the regular season.
See, and now that's the difficulty between, you know, the EU LCS and more traditional sports, where that is a very legitimate strategy when you're playing on, hey, we got a long-term game plan. You're an NFL fan, indulge me for a second. Carolina Panthers pretty much said we're building our team around Cam Newton. Everybody else is a new pickup. It's going to take us years. Unfortunately, ROCCAT, first of all, they haven't got to play the caliber of Cam Newton at that level. Betsy and Hyanan are great, but they don't have a few years to build. You've got 4 or 5 weeks before, oh, we've lost too many games and we can't actually build the basis to stay in the league. That's one of the significant differences on these long-term game plans. ROCCAT just needs to pick the pace up on some of their, you know, tightening up some of the plays they're making.
Yeah, just to remind everybody, like, it's 10 weeks of regular season. There are 13 series that get played, huh, guys? And depending on your result at the end of those 13 VO3s determines whether or not you make playoffs, if you're 1, 2, or 3, safe spot at number 4 in your group, or promotion tournament number 5. Looking back in on this game, Giants looking to pick up their first series win, get out of that number 5 spot, if they can keep this level of play up and keep punishing ROCCAT, because everything ROCCAT have tried to do has backfired harder than that rocket pistol on Kled. Too much? Too much.
No,
Okay.
I see where you're going. That was good. Hey, I'll indulge you in that. You indulge me in my NFL.
Thank you.
I was trying to make, Deficio think I know what I'm saying.
It was good. I tried to do a weatherman joke 2 days ago, and ooh, it didn't land. No, it didn't stick at all. So try to pull it back a little bit.
You should have just really slapped it on there with some force. I found that apparently works for you fairly well.
So Stress, why is the game stagnated? Giants have got 3 towers. They're trying to push wards, but it's not going as deep as maybe Giants want.
So one of the real stagnation points comes from the fact that Betsy on Rise and Hyanan on Varus have decent wave clear. Shen, although he'll get shoved in, is able to stand in the wave against Flaxish and just push it back out every so often as soon as Flaxish leaves. So it just means that ROCCAT can at least slow that tempo. Karma plays in on that one as well, a little bit of extra wave clear. We've seen this a good few times, where just the ability to just clear waves slows every type of aggressive pattern. Giants, however, third Infernal Drake in 30 seconds means ROCCAT really do have to react, because there's going to be just too much damage that Giants will have that ROCCAT cannot afford to sit behind turrets once they start getting a little bit closer after that third Drake.
Well, everybody's got an ultimate and their summoner spells. Memento's got a slightly different build on this Kha'Zix. Second item, Edge of Night. We touched on how ROCCAT members are relatively squishy right now. It'll take some time before Betsy becomes, unkillable, as rises do. Hyanan, wow, gets caught out. Eats an Ash Arrow as well. Stand United will allow Fuxi to arrive, and our Giants are split up.
Memento's
Weaver's
dead.
Wall delivers Knight into the fight. They've traded 1 for 1. Junglers are down. Fuxi and Flaxish trading back and forth. The re-engage of the Twisted Advance as Hyanan throws down piercing arrows from the side. ROCCAT are winning the fight for a second or two longer. Hustlin re-engages, backs away. Everybody's dying. 3 for 3. Mids and ADCs left. Blast cone to safety, and ROCCAT escape.
That looked like a real rough start to the fight when Hyanan got caught out by the arrow. It looked like Giants were going on a re-engage, but Memento, getting locked down in the middle of the fight, dies before he could even really kill anybody in response from it. And then Faxi ends up tanking a lot of damage. Flaxish tanks a lot of damage, and it's a kind of a net gain slightly for ROCCAT. 1 additional kill on the board. They finally got some kills to their name, and they stopped Giants from looking for that Infernal Drake. So this was the arrow after the hook, onto Hassan. Out came the Shen shield, everything on top of it. Faxi manages to get right on top of Memento and hold him in place, and Flaxish is doing his best to deter the damage, but ultimately ends up tanking the dragon, ends up tanking too much damage once his ultimate is down, and drops from it. Huslin's doing a decent job in a lot of these fights with his hooks. It's one of the reasons why Nautilus is such a key pick for him, is he feels like he has a lot of impact in the team fights. But ROCCAT, that's at least a little bit in their benefit, and like that, we're into another fight.
Do it again! Max Law's already down. Infernal Drake. Now Hyanan eats another arrow. Are you hungry, son? Because you're eating everything. Giants, 2 kills and a dragon.
And just when you thought it was good for ROCCAT, they force another fight around the dragon. They couldn't really let Giants take it without getting anything in response. And ROCCAT, with a rough fight, lands us in a pause.
I think I know what the problem is. I think somebody on ROCCAT went, hey guys, the color on my monitor's broken. It's been gray for like 10 minutes. Thank you for laughing. My co-casters never laugh, so...
It's just
mean. I know, it is very mean.
That's mean.
We will find out in a moment or two what is happening, but yeah, I mean, the state of the game, Giants are just re-engaging very, very well.
Yeah, they've re-engaged pretty well. They've also caught out Hyanan now twice to start fights off.
I need to double check. So obviously this arrow, there was no flash available, but the dredge line on that previous dragon fight, it looked like it just kind of curved a corner.
The arrow kind of looked like it as well. I saw, Caps as well the other day. Was like, oh, I really got hit by that Varus. So it's okay. Players will always screen cap it for us and tweet it when they feel like they didn't get hit, because hitbox is...
But the problem is, I mean, it's a huge dredge line. And obviously, Hyanan getting caught starts that, like, tumble where Giants, they had a 2,000 to 3,000 gold lead, which is sizable. It was significant. They had a dragon lead. But ROCCAT had just won a fight. They'd stalled it out. They had an opportunity to at least buy time. And unfortunately, we didn't see the build-up of that second Dragon fight. But committing to it has put them in an even bigger hole. It's now close to 7,000 gold.
Yeah, and I'm fairly sure the build-up to that was Giants going, okay, well, that wasn't the best fight for us. Let's just walk to Dragon again. Because we'll just burn it down faster than they can reply with. As you know, you're assuming that then Stand United wasn't available. A lot of those team fighting tools wouldn't have been up for ROCCAT, so Giants would probably just run up to it and say, okay, let's do it again. It'll be okay.
Yeah, we'll see if ROCCAT will be okay. A lot to think about throughout the course of the game. Just to give you guys an update, there was a technical error on Giants' HQ side. You guys have looked into it. Hopefully, we should be jumping back into the game relatively soon. Unfortunately, that is not the case. For now, we can head over to the analyst desk to talk a little bit more about the first 20 minutes.
People died.
People died. Thank you, Deficio. Thanks, Trevor, of course. While we wait for this pause to get sorted out, let's take a chance to look exactly at how the picks and bans unfolded. I feel like we have two very interesting compositions here. We've already seen how they've started to work out, but what were your guys' initial thoughts after seeing, let's start with the side of ROCCAT, the composition that they drafted up here?
Yeah, if this composition falls behind and this Nocturne needs to fly into all the peel, that's gonna get really, really hard. And it's up to the Nocturne and Shan's job then to go through and kill all of them. And that's gonna get really hard. Not to
Theoretically, if they were to get behind, it would be really bad. Okay,
it's
so
a
they're
great
already
prediction,
behind.
though. It's a great prediction.
And I think as a foreshadowing, already in pick and ban, that kind of played out.
Yeah, you knew what was going to happen, obviously, going into the game, based on what you just said. And I mean, Nocturne is always extremely risky to play. I think the reward is high if you do manage to execute him properly, especially with the Shen. Like, ideally for ROCCAT, they play 1-3-1. Ryze, one lane, Shen, the other. Nocturne around the Ryze lane, dives in, kills the guy in the side lane. Woo! We all get super hype, and it's great. Sadly, you got to get to that point where you can actually split push, and that's where it's gone a little bit wrong.
Well, we'll have to see if they can somehow make it back to that point, what they can do to outplay their opponent, because we're about to come out of that pause, and we'll get you back into this game pretty shortly.
Thank you very much, Dracos. I'm hoping to use woo from Deficio in-game.
Do I stand this way or that, like...
Dude, just let it be.
Woo!
No. So,
let's go.
All right, so, Stress. What do ROCCAT have to do to bounce back? You know, they've played very aggressive, maybe a little bit fast and loose, and they've been bitten for it.
They have. As Deficio wildly said, it was meant to be a bot lane party where Shen and Nocturne did everything, and it really punished them. Honestly, this is the kind of composition where a magician should never show their tricks twice, and if the audience gets the trick the first time, definitely don't do it, because ROCCAT continue to just force this one type of play over and over again. We are back into a pause.
We are indeed back into a pause. Just to explain what the sound effects were, Betsy was actually jumping onto Knight. They were in the mid lane. They started competing, and the disco party that is Betsy's keyboard was being unleashed by Ryze. I do not have an update as to what the pause is about. We'll let you know.
That's how you play Ryze. You follow the colors on the keyboard, so you just go over and over and over every time it's available. Just face roll that keyboard.
All right, so I'm hearing outside of the face roll. It is apparently lag-related problems from the players. We are investigating the claims and just double-checking on the technical side. And then obviously, we'll get back into it in a moment or two. We can see our tech guys on screen with Hiku.
That's my go-to reasoning, lag.
It's always mine,
Always.
dude. Always mine.
It's a safe bet. Everyone's like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Understand. But certainly for Giants in this game, this is a kind of performance that we've actually been wanting out of either of these teams up until this point, where they're looking more convincing. Like Giants, they did well against Fnatic.
Yeah.
But you also look at some of the situations that Fnatic put themselves in, and you're like, oh, maybe Giants, they'll get this one game, and I don't feel confident. Against a team like ROCCAT, I feel like Giants can do this game after game. And that's really where the growth opportunity has to come from, is that it's not one game unique wins. It's about building these kind of wins week by week.
Gentlemen at the analyst desk, can they build, and what are they working with to build?
Nocturne.
Well, Nocturne is what they're working with. Can they build? That's a good question. Well, not a whole lot has changed since
back
you've
to the
seen
topic.
us. Continue with the topic at hand. So we're really looking for a way for ROCCAT to come back into this game because right now Giants are very much in control and seem to be on pace to win the game. The Kazakhs is crazy ahead, but really, what are the options here for ROCCAT? What do they need to do to pull back? Do they have any way to get into the late game?
I think playing like split pushing comps and again Nocturne jungle and start falling behind, it basically means your mid lane is always pushed in. So you're never able to run to the side lanes and like start pushing it out because obviously if you push the sides and your mid is pushed in, the enemy will just roam in behind you or take all your towers. So that doesn't really work. I feel like the way for ROCCAT to win is literally by Giants just messing up everything. They are in prime position to win. The composition is good. They have control of the map. They need to start setting up around Baron soon and don't mess up around Baron. I guess you got this.
Yeah, I think they just need to be careful that they play the macro correctly now because it's now time for ROCCAT to try to get those catches on their mobile carries in the backline. Try to get the Nocturne Shen combo off and actually kill the Ashe. But it's very little chance unless, like he's saying, Giants is messing up, like starting pushing 1-3-1 instantly and they can find some sort of collapse. And what we've also seen is like shades of ROCCAT being successful by having a last team fight that was roundabout equalish. And that was just a trade of tanks and that they could actually kill the Maokai and then go on the backline. But I don't expect this to happen again, especially with the gold deficit right now. And we've also seen Hyaonan dying. And 2 kills more to Kazakhs, and at this point, it just gets really hard.
And at this point, we were talking about ROCCAT really needing to catch Giants out, but it's been Giants catching ROCCAT time and time and time again. As we take a chance to look at one of those earlier Dragon fights, I want to run through this one and talk a little bit about the thought process here for ROCCAT and why maybe they're trying to find an engage here or what happens.
They're definitely not trying to find an engage. Yana is just very greedy for the honey fruit, and I'm not really sure why. Just for mana, I assume, so you could actually start poking, and that gets him caught. And at this point, while Maxer does actually do a fine job getting, or trying to get a kill on the back line, it's really hard to do anything when your AD carry gets hooked in and he has to use both summoners to actually stay alive.
But here it's really a good example of how they're actually winning the team fights. Kazakhs insta-dice, highest DPS, that's like 6,000 gold right down the drain, or probably even more at this point. And then in the backside, actually Nocturne is getting the flash and the heal from the Ashe, so it gets a lot of summoners, and then they can right turn onto the Maokai with 1-man advantage because they traded the Nocturne off with the Kazakhs and the Nocturne was still alive for a bit. So yeah, they get the extra DPS in and that's like the advantage that they actually need to win team fights.
And also Infernal Drake helping on their side. It was actually active for the entire team fight and it does deal AoE damage, which can, or just they deal quite a lot of damage, which can actually mean a lot in like a mid-game fight here. Because we adding Dragon on ROCCAT side, and that's how they're gonna win.
I mean, it shows the desperation when Deficio is sitting here telling me that Dragon auto attacks are going to be the decider.
It actually mattered in that fight.
It does.
It got a lot of hit there.
Play the map. Play with the map.
Play with the map. That's the unicorn strategy.
I think Hyaonan's playing a little too much with the honey fruit, though. I think playing with the map has not worked out so well for ROCCAT thus far.
That's very true. But I think as a respect to ROCCAT for actually going even or slightly winning this fight here, and more of those are needed to get back into the game. But I don't feel like they're going to win because of their composition. Like, whatever the game plan was with the Nocturne Shen and the 1-3-1 is kind of out the window now, and it's outplay Giants in team fights, which can happen, but the chance is obviously much lower because the team fighting composition of Giants is just naturally stronger. But there's always individual performance. There's a guy misplaying. We see it multiple times. Western teams tend to overstep in fights. There is always all the teams. There's always openings.
Yes, and I think. Yeah, sorry.
No, you're good.
Just to jump in.
Just agree with me. Thank you.
Yes, try it, of course, and so on.
Yeah.
Also, especially if you have like squishy members like Kazakhs that build full squishy, and we just saw it in the team fights. And the Ashe right now doesn't have heal, doesn't have flash. There's actually openings right now to specifically target out those champions and kill them quickly. So there is outplay potential. You can trap, so still there needs to be some kind of wariness of Giants to play correctly. But yeah, once again, it's up to Giants to make the positional mistake and ROCCAT to capitalize on this with the Nocturne Shen combo. That is really the only thing they have.
Well, unfortunately, the Nocturne Shen combo didn't really work out for them. We were saving this replay for a little bit later, but as the pause does appear to be extending a little bit longer, let's talk about that early game. Let's talk about what exactly went wrong. ROCCAT feel like they have the setup here, but why don't you guys run me through this one?
Yeah, here you actually see the engage, the combo. But before Varus was ultimating the Ashe flashing it out. Right now they're right onto them, but they cannot catch the Ashe anymore. and they are committing on the Nautilus.
And you may remember, if you've been following us through the entirety of this game, you can also see Betsy and Memento on the top side of your screen. That is, in fact, Rise getting soloed out on the Kazakhs before he can make his presence known in this fight.
And that's what Deficio was pointing out when we watched the replay. He's like, what are you doing, Betsy? You can't go this way. There's a Kazakhs in the bush hiding for you. And he just gets solo killed right there. And then, obviously, with the rotation down.
We start to watch the rest of this replay unfold. You can see how much of a disaster this is.
Well, I actually wonder, I don't know if you can do this, but it looked like Nautilus stopped Shenton in its animation by actually bonking him in the head. But I don't know if it fully stops the animation or if it was just a short taunt from Foxy.
Or maybe a hook or something like this. That can definitely happen. But the Ashe was already in the clear after she flashed out the Varus ultimate. And the Nocturne follow-up combo under turret is not working out, so they needed to back off.
That is just the only thing I would love to see. Like, if Shen would actually, if he was able to reach the Ashe, if they could like fire a Varus arrow and maybe Nocturne Q, would it maybe been enough to kill the Ashe? Possibly. However, you still have to get out, and Betsy would have died no matter what, because the whole problem for Betsy was obviously team is calling, we're going bot lane. Betsy sees his mid lane opponent is leaving, and instead of him taking the long route, like through the river, which is the safe route in his situation, he's like, I'm just going to cut short here. I'm going to come down and then try and ult in behind the enemy team. But you walk into like a control ward, you don't have any vision, there's a Kha'Zix potentially, and there was a Kha'Zix, and bingo, he's dead. And then it's a lost fight no matter what.
Well, potentially too over-eager and definitely not a mistake ROCCAT can afford to make again. But we are going to send it back to Trevor, Quickshot Henry, and James Tresselier. I just had to say the full names this time around. They're going to take it away.
Don't know where the camera is. It's over there somewhere. Woohoo! Welcome back. Right, quick update. The technical issues have been resolved. During the course of resolving those, we pause and then unpause the game several times to make sure things are working. Obviously, that means there's a few seconds of gameplay that has happened off screen. To summarize what happened to where we're about to jump into, Betsy actually jumped onto Knights, forced Giants back, and when Giants were running away, they made a beeline for Baron. So we're going to be jumping into the game as Giants are sitting at the Baron pit. Stress, as we look at the screen, which is going to come up in just a moment, Giants, they are on Baron. I'm not even going to give you a chance to talk because there is actually potential for a team fight. We are on screen. Baron, it's been secured. They've taken it.
Baron secured from the Giants, so it's a, clutch Baron call right out of the pause from Giants. They were significantly far ahead with these 3 Infernals and a massive gold lead in their favor. So you would expect them to be in that kind of position. We'll take another look back at how it actually happened, though.
Yeah, we do have a replay being worked on to just summarize the action, and here we go.
So this is going to be one of those replays that colorcasters are a little bit afraid of because we don't actually know what happens. But Knight, there was the forced flash, and you can see he was pushing mid lane out, which allowed Giants to cut across. It's a fairly risky Baron when you look at it. It's fairly standard to look to shove out. You can see Knight, good blocking with that Weaver's Wall to make sure nobody from ROCCAT could come in. Couldn't really commit to it. Maxlor had even backed away. He was in base when the Baron got taken down.
So much damage on the side of Giants. Huge advantage. 3 Infernals. Thank you very much, production, for getting us that quick replay. Last chance. Hiku stays alive. Foxy taunts up Hiku. No more damage. It's Jungler for ADC, and Memento's forced to flash defensively. Now ROCCAT forced backwards. Meowkai is coming, and he's purring for blood. Foxy gets caught down, but it's Flaxish that survives a few seconds longer. Hiku and Hustlin, the only victims trading top for bottom.
You can see how much damage Flaxish was able to tank out in that, and Giants still will maintain Baron buff on 3 members. We talked about on the analyst desk that they want to set up this multi-lane push as well as ROCCAT do, and you can see the Giants now going to shove out bot lane, push that one out. And that fight, Maxlor tried to start. Oh boy, did he get taken out faster than he even could arrive.
But for the first time, they were able to get Hiku. We saw the Shen Nocturne combination work out. They just then couldn't cut down the tree that ended up in their way.
And that's exactly what Sheepy was talking about. You can see the target priority here. Maxlor was over a couple of wards that he'd been spotted on. Shen comes in. They get right onto Hiku as well. Despite everything coming out in this setup, Faxi was right there, able to put damage down as Hyanan picked up the actual killing blow on that one. Now Flaxish looked to tank out the rest of it, but ultimately Faxi dove into the back line, was able to, with Betsy's help, kill Hustlin and kind of keep it at a 2-kill apiece trade.
And so important to notice, all of the AoE damage, Memento and Hiku both chunked out so low. All right, Knights, let's see the combo. Unraveled.
He's
Knight gets
1v2.
jumped on. 1v2 indeed. Support coming from Giants down south, but it will not arrive in time. Flaxish begins channeling the teleport. Betsy and Wadid, they're caught out. Wadid flashes over the wall. Maxlo and Foxy, they're looking for Hiku. Hiku sidesteps the taunt. Chain of corruption is spreading. He's locked down. Huan is the target. Hiku is still alive. The fight carries on. Maxlo's on the back line. Foxy's now running for his life. 3 members of Giants trying to chase him down. And eventually they will. Stand United. Spirit's Refuge is buying just so much time. He dies, eventually.
Eventually, ROCCAT now have slowed Giants' Baron buff push fairly significantly. Memento didn't even bother chasing at the end because he knew the team needed to continue to advance this kind of lead that they have right now. Giants... Knight tried to make a play onto the top side to kill Faxi. That, like, this isn't very often going to work out in his favor anyway. Maxlor is able to block Knight from taking the wall out, and ROCCAT are able to start this fight off well. From here, though, Hiku gets singled out down on the bottom side, but Hustlin, as is Nautilus, again, able to just buy enough time. Buy time for Hiku. The 1 versus 1 with 3 people around them goes in Hiku's favor, and this was the chase to end it. It's not really a 1 versus 1 when there's 5 people.
I really love that though, the 1 versus 1 with 3 people, because that's actually what happened. Like Hiku and Hyun,
hitting each other.
They just right-clicked one another.
And then Hustlin just takes the kill. Yep. Just last little hit.
Bops him on the head. All right, so in about 8 minutes, this game has just continued the crazy fights. 15 kills to 7, nearly 10,000 gold lead for Giants. They want to complete their Volcano Elemental buff. That's what I call 3 Infernals in a mountain. And that mountain will be up in 30 seconds.
We'll see if it spells the doom of ROCCAT.
Surely it should.
Pushes in. I mean, realistically, ROCCAT basically traded the fact that the Baron buff is now gone for a couple of extra 1,000 gold in the lead for Giants. Faxi's been caught.
Yeah, engage onto Foxy. Still very, very tanky. With that Sunfire kept Spirit's Visage, but he can't get through the wall. Redemption comes down. Paranoia has been used by Maxlop. I assume just to block the vision. Very good flash by Betsy. It looked like that dredge line was going to connect. And important to note that Stand United is still available. So if ROCCAT want to try and re-engage, they can, but they've got no Paranoia. Inhibitor turret goes down. Maxlaw gets chunked. Stand United just to save his life, but he will not get saved. Foxy can't arrive. Now Betsy's the target. 4 members of Giants on him. Foxy gets a good taunt. QSS from Hiku.
Oh, he got Hiku.
Blocks it. All of a sudden, it's ROCCAT that are winning the fight, and Knight is running. Foxy is so tanky, and there's a lot of CC. Betsy wants to try and cut people down. Realm Warp is available. Dredge line just not enough. And ROCCAT hold. Realm Warp is going to at least deliver them towards Knight.
Oh,
Blast Cone continues the chase. No Ghost available, and Knight's rock surfing gets him to safety.
So ROCCAT able to counter-engage after Giants push down the tower. Giants didn't need the Baron buff to take the objective, but the fight the other side was a little bit harder fought because Faxi, you know, he's got a little bit of damage, has that Tiamat, has a couple of items completed, gets into the backline, takes out Hiku. A lot of damage went down onto Memento as well, and it was enough to remove the damage out of Giants. And as they pushed up, you can see easy to take the objective, but they keep going after this. They get a kill on Maxlor and think, okay, this is great, we can continue this, but Memento is already low. Flaxish is low and doesn't really have his ult running for a lot of this fight. So as he dives in, finally gets it up right as he dies, but already Faxi's gone into the backline for Giants. Flaxish had left his all-important damage dealers behind in that, and Giants couldn't really balance the damage anymore.
No, they really couldn't, and that Shen W just blocked so much damage from Hiku. ROCCAT end up winning the fight, and you know, like, you have to call it out. Giants over-eager on that fight, you know, jumping further than they needed to. Stand United, even though it didn't finish, Foxy was able to just run to the inhibitor with those sort of home guard boots, and Foxy turns the fight around. All right, it's no longer 10,000, it's 8,000. A dragon to ROCCAT. Mount Doom was denied. Giants unable to complete that one.
The problem, though, now for ROCCAT is they have to come to the Baron pit because Giants will rush this down very quickly, and now they're not fighting with the advantage of Giants being basically in their base on low health. Flaxish is looking at TP. He can't with Paranoia active.
No, he can't. Lix needs to find a target. Flaxish was not tanking Baron, so Memento's lost all of that HP for nothing. Teleport is still available, and Flaxish is waiting in the base.
Yeah, they're just trying to bait them up towards the Baron pit. They have got that control ward to deny some of the vision control in the Baron pit as well. ROCCAT are going to call the bluff and look to run down mid. Now this could backfire. They could end up giving both away here. ROCCAT having to come back through the blue side, and they've been blocked off by the Weaver's
The
wall.
door is closed. They can't get in. Baron secured because Knight locks them out.
Knight puts down the order, nobody passing through towards the Baron pit, and ROCCAT have been completely denied any kind of contest onto the Baron. Giants will now push through the top side, looking for a second inhibitor tower.
All right, Hassan's just going to tank up a couple shots here before Giants unlock another lane. The inhibitor not targeted yet. Flash taunt onto Knight. Knight's gonna back away. A lot of damage going down as Hjarnan is already killed. Flaxish is moving forward. Max Law's caught. Betsy eats an arrow. And Giants scream, are you not entertained? They've got 3, looking for 4. The inhibitor falls as Hiku turns onto the Nexus turret. Giants have made this dramatic and exciting, and they will shut down ROCCAT in game 1 of the best of 3.
From the first time these two teams engaged in this game, Giants showed they just had the better counter-engage. They had the better setup on the fights, and ROCCAT were reaching for the entire game, trying to make the plays work with the Nocturne, with the Shen, and ultimately, they just couldn't get enough.
It felt like Giants individually were the stronger players almost every role for role, and they just went go ham, right? Like every fight, they just threw everything at ROCCAT and came out on top.
Yeah, they come out with a win, a big win for Giants. And honestly, if they can keep this going, like they look, if they do that in game 2, you can pretty much not argue that Giants.
But you have to criticize the messy mid game.
You do.
You know, yes, they were aggressive. Yes, they were pushing, but it was over-eager, and that allowed ROCCAT to actually claw back into the game. Hold that thought, because we'll find out if the analyst desk agrees. Let's take a look at how Giants picked up game number 1.
Love.
Thank you very much, Push. I feel like without Shocks here, I feel like mom is gone and you're the disobedient son now runs free.
You need to punish me, Trevor. I'll keep doing it, man.
No, man. This is too much already, Fishy. You need to calm down. All right. Well, we talked about this game a lot already. The mid-game, Quickshot talked a lot about opportunities coming back to the game, but it doesn't really ever feel to me like ROCCAT were back in the game, despite some small mistakes from Giants.
Well, there is a replay we want to show of like how ROCCAT could get back in the game, and just to set it up, this is all exactly what Sheepy predicted before with his absolutely insane game knowledge. This is actually the replay we showed already in the pause. We can show it again if you guys like to see it.
I think we've gone over this one. We'll pass over this one.
All right, let's watch it one more time. So this is not what Sheepy was talking about. We'll see that one later. But this is obviously the one where Shen gets bonked in the head. Taunt doesn't reach the Ashe. And Betsy obviously gets caught out. Anyway, talk, Sheepy.
Yeah, but it's really nice how the follow-up is actually coming with the Talia ultimate and the Maokai. Because it's a 5 versus 4, but they still need to force the fight. And actually, we didn't show the end of this, so I think it's nice to see that they got aced, everyone died one time, and then at least, you know, in the team, there's no disruption there.
And that's important for team morale, that no one is feeding more than someone else. So everyone is kind of on the same page, being guys, we're losing together. We're all doing poorly.
And now that's
reset. Then you reset.
All right, well, let's look now at the original fight that we were going to talk about after that Baron.
Yeah, so Sheepy, with the insane game knowledge, said Shen and Nocturne dives in. They have to kill the Ashe. He just forgot to mention that Ryze can also ult into the backline. Which also happened in this one.
And also Ashe didn't have flash and heal because of the catch from before, so this is actually a really good fight that they are taking there.
It is. It will end up being just an even fight, and this is often what happens if you're already down. So even if you do execute your comp correctly, you don't actually get rewarded with like an ace or something. You're just like, congratulations, you got 2 kills. They also, sadly for you, got 2 kills, but this is what happens when you fall behind.
I actually wonder, we just saw Grabs as well, the coach for ROCCAT, and I actually wonder if they have more like those kind of team comps that are very centric around like one kind of engage or one form that they win the game with. So at least they had the game plan here with the Shen and Nocturne. I would have liked to see it played out more in the mid game actually, if they can set it up, if they don't go 0-5 in the beginning.
Yeah, I think just a huge issue for ROCCAT is the fact that if you look at Giants, and especially Memento and Knight, I feel like they were just performing much better than Maxlaw and Betsy in a game like this. So when you're running like this Nocturne, your jungler needs to be on point. Like, he can't fall behind. His engager's gotta be spot on, when to dive in, and the coordination. And ROCCAT hasn't really shown this sort of coordination so far. So the fact that Memento on Kha'Zix and obviously Knight on Taliyah were able to kind of do whatever they wanted gave a huge advantage to Giants. And we just have to praise this team for how each member are actually playing at a reasonably high level.
And I think it's good that you bring up Knight, because he had 2 very fantastic plays coming in around the Baron, and his use of Taliyah ult, I feel like, was absolutely brilliant this game. We'll get a chance to look at it now as we bring it up on the screen, but consistently zoning ROCCAT away. You can see some of you may have missed this during the pause. We
This
did
is
come
sexy
back on
replay,
replay
honestly.
it. But this is the Giants. Once again, you see the wall.
Yeah, before what happened was Hyanan died, so they need to contest, but poking in very slowly. But because they are zoned off by the wall, they either way hard commit with the Ryze ultimate or don't do anything at all. And right here, fighting 4 versus 5 there, just Ryze ultimating on top of that doesn't really allow them, so really great Taliyah ultimate there.
Okay,
And we saw one later as well.
We saw one later as well. We're not going to get a chance to see it here again, but we did have just another fantastic ultimate, zoning them completely out, making sure they can't even make their way into the pit, even with 5 members strong in that exchange. And so Knight, Memento, we were skeptical about Memento. We expected Knight to carry. I feel like we did not see that against Fnatic, but we are seeing it here today against ROCCAT.
Yeah, 100%. A really good performance on Taliyah here, and very important because it was ROCCAT who valued the Ryze very early in the draft, banned Syndra, banned Cassiopeia to try and get a good matchup for Betsy, and then Taliyah is still a choice we see very often. And when you can then play it this well, it kind of makes it hard for ROCCAT now in the pick and ban phase if they want to play Ryze again, because there are too many picks they got to get rid of.
Yeah, once again, I would have really liked to see how it goes if it's not 0-5, but because the kills were so early, I think if you have a Taliyah who can push out first, with the ultimate, able to roam everywhere, and the Kha'Zix that can kill anyone 1v1, then afterwards Giants played it out really well. Once again, in the team fights, need to be a little bit more careful for the combo. That's where we saw ROCCAT coming back. But once they played like their team comes with Taliyah ultimates, getting the Barons and setting up together, and not getting one-shot in the backline because actually they are peeling for them, then everything worked out.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how they adjust, what they want to change in picks and bans, and what they want to change on the execution front, because coming up, we'll see if ROCCAT can fight back or if Giants will take the last series of the week with the 2-0. And after the final game, we'll load into the post-game lobby for a look back at the week, rookies to watch, and more. Don't go anywhere.
Coming down while all that's going on. Somehow Betsy died. Flaxisha teleported in. Knight surfs on the Weaver's wall.
It's gone
this
horribly
is
wrong.
horrible for ROCCAT. 3 kills so far. They're diving for 4. They're looking for a 10-minute ace. ROCCAT are running for their lives. Flaxish is looking for a target. A flash away from everyone on ROCCAT. Dustbringer buys some time. How did no one die?
ROCCAT, that's at least a little bit in their benefit, and like that, we're into another fight.
Do it again! Maxlaw's already down. Infernal Drake. Now Fionn eats another arrow. Are you hungry, son? Because you're eating everything. Jungler for ADC and Memento's forced to flash defensively. Now ROCCAT forced backwards. Meowkai is coming and he's purring for blood. Poxy gets caught down, but it's Flaxish that survives a few seconds longer. He's already killed. Flaxish is moving forward. Maxlaw's caught. Betsy eats an arrow and Giants scream.